PWI Convo. Simply people who inspire. Your inspirational plug where you come to learn from the best. Those who are leading positive change and making an impact in their communities, industries, and beyond. And my guest today is an extraordinary individual who is, of course, certainly is a person who inspires. His name is Michael Adote. Michael, you're welcome.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for having me.
Yes. Today is a great joy for us to have a transformational agent. He is a life coach. He is the founder and president of POIMEN. I guess he would love to tell us a little bit more about himself and POIMEN.
Well, I'm a life coach. I run POIMEN, which is an organization that focuses on three main things: the mind, purpose, and leadership. And we started this because I believe that these are areas that we cannot ignore if we seek transformation in our lives. So that is how the journey began, and that's what we do, and that's what everything that we set out to do is anchored on: the mind, purpose, or leadership. So that's me, and that's the organization that I run.
Absolutely. Welcome, Michael. We are honored to have you here today. So let's break the ice. It's always fun to hang out with you,
Definitely.
Michael. So the theme or the topic for discussion today is around what you do.
Okay.
So it's about mastering the mind,
Okay.
purpose, and leadership.
Excellent.
So it's something that I would love for us to use to break the ice.
Okay.
So it's simply this. So if your mind were to be a supercomputer,
Okay.
what would be its most powerful feature?
Okay. So Michael must become an AI.
Yeah.
Well, I think I would say a metaphor hub. And the metaphor hub is simply a computer that can help you connect complex ideas to simple life phenomena.
Wow.
So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
If I want to explain purpose, I'll use a compass to illustrate it, because I feel that will make it very relatable.
Right.
And every time you see a compass, whether it's on your phone or a physical compass, you can immediately think of a complex idea such as purpose. So I think that would be my superpower if I were a computer.
Wow. I mean, Michael, if you could, summarize your entire philosophy in just 3 words, what would they be?
Mind, purpose, leadership.
Leadership, that's it. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Mind, purpose, and leadership. How do we master mind, purpose, and leadership? Or simply put, how do we discover and master our mind, live on purpose, and lead with purpose? I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah.
So the power of the mind, Michael, you often say that mastering the mind is the first step to mastering life. Okay, can you break that down? It's a bit, dense.
Whenever I talk about mastering the mind, I will put it this way. If you had the world's most hardened criminal and you were the chief of security for the entire world,
Right.
and all the heads of states have come together and they've commissioned you to keep this criminal under wraps, what lens would you go to make sure that this criminal doesn't get out,
escape,
and start causing trouble? Because this guy is dangerous. So, I mean, tell me what are some of the things you do?
Hey, at this point, yeah, the power of the mind. So, what would
Chief of security.
What
are you going to do to keep this criminal under wraps?
I think, Michael, let me bring it back to you.
Excellent. So, tall and short, you are going to do everything possible to make sure that this guy doesn't escape. Even a housefly wouldn't have a chance to get into the room and fly out of the room. But that is actually coming back to a fundamental idea behind mastering the mind, which you'd find in Proverbs 4:23, which says, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Now, the mind is where everything emanates from. That's what drives our actions. That's what drives our choices. That's where our beliefs are. That's where everything that makes us tick is found. And so when it says guard your heart with all diligence, it's actually telling you to do everything possible to be mindful of what's coming in and what's going out of your mind. So that's what mastering your mind basically is being mindful, or should I say it's being intentional in making sure that what is coming in is not going to hamper your progress in life, and making sure that what's also coming out is not going to hamper your progress in life. And it's something that anybody can do, because everybody has a mind and everybody has a will. So mastering your mind really comes down to that. What goes in, what comes out, and what's my role in making sure that I'm making the most of it.
Wonderful. Michael just simply have given us both an example as well as a perfect description of what it means to master the mind and in return master your life. So the first step is the mind. Let's talk about purpose.
Okay.
Let's talk about purpose. So, I mean, Michael, you work with, let me say, thousands of young people, corporate people in different strategic positions, both in church and outside church. So what are the biggest mental roadblocks that stop people from stepping into their purpose?
I think the fundamental is a lack of self-awareness. And this cuts across. It's not just young people who are confused. Recently, a very good friend of mine, who everybody would consider very accomplished, wrote on Facebook, well, what is passion? I don't seem to know mine. And everybody in the comment section were like, oh, but you're a great person, you're a good organizer, you're making sure that things work, and so on and so forth. And it's just people not knowing who they are, what their convictions are, what makes them unique, what makes them come alive, and being able to blend all those things together and pursue life with meaning. That's the greatest stumbling block many people face.
Wow.
Self-awareness.
Wow. Did you hear that? Self-awareness is the greatest, from Michael's point of view, the greatest challenge or
the
roadblock, the lack of it that stop people from stepping into their purpose. So it's very important that we explore this for you to understand better. But there is a lot of talk about limiting beliefs as well, Michael. So how can someone identify and overcome theirs?
A limiting belief, it's like, so I'm in the metaphor hub mode. So a limiting belief is like someone who has strapped cannonballs around their wrists and their legs, and they're trying to walk with it.
Good picture.
Just imagine that. Walking around with a limiting belief is actually like that. You're moving around and nobody can see anything holding you, but there's something going on subconsciously that is holding you back. Because if you saw someone walking around with the cannonballs, you think this guy is crazy, or maybe he's just trying to build muscle.
Right.
But ordinarily, you don't expect people to walk around day by day doing that. That's what a limiting belief is doing to you subconsciously. To really overcome it or start to confront it, let's start with an area where you notice you're struggling.
Right.
Let's say maybe it's in your finance, maybe it's in your work. It's important to at least to zero in on the area. Now, the second thing you do after identifying the area is what kind of words and what kind of imagery do you hold when it comes to that? So if I say money, what's the first image that comes to mind? You have to pay attention to that image because it's giving you an idea of what money represents to you. And so if money represents something that you think it's impossible for you to have, that's a limiting belief right there.
Wow.
And you have to proceed to ask yourself, what planted that idea into your mind? And the last thing you'd have to do is, after asking what planted the idea, when you find the answer, the last question you ask is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
And most of the time you find that now that there's really no compelling, good enough reason to continue to hold on to that belief. And so it's time to find the keys and unlock the wrist and the ankles and set yourself free. So that's where you start from.
Someone listening to this right now is wondering, where do I find the keys to unlock? You just find it. The key is always there. Once you are self-aware that these are the limiting beliefs, you just find the key.
Yeah.
That is the key. Unlock it and walk free.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Mini exercise, Michael. I mean, if someone is stuck, let's say, in a negative maybe mindset loop, right? What's one quick mental reframe they can deploy right now to help them out?
Honestly, when you're in a negative headspace, the last thing you want to trust is your thoughts. Because everything you are producing is negative. Everything you're producing is like a consequence of what you are thinking. So you don't trust your thoughts in that moment. And what you can do is just disengage. Don't do anything. Just be still. Allow your thoughts to settle, because the more you are trying to counter a thought, the more you are trying to override a thought, your mind is getting on overdrive. And the human mind is limited in the sense that it gets tired. The brain gets tired. That's why you wake up in the morning, you feel charged. At a certain point in the day, you are. And the brain is 2% of your body weight, right? But it needs 20% of the energy that your body produces. So if it's taking 20% of the energy that your body produces, yet it's 2% of your body weight, it tells you that you have to be very, very deliberate in how you engage your mind. And so it's very important for us to make sure that we are not getting carried away unnecessarily.
I love that. And that is the first part of our conversation around the mind. There is more to unravel, but let's move to the next part. And this is unlocking purpose, which you can say, how can we live on purpose? So you have to unlock it first. And then thriving is a word Michael has even carved. It's called Wired to Thrive. It's a trending podcast, and it's been very beneficial to me as an individual, but it's very relevant to all walks of life from different industries. Be you a pastor, be you a leadership coach, be you an educator, be you an entrepreneur, whatever you're doing, the Wired to Thrive podcast has got an element that will benefit you. So now, Michael, let's start with the Living on Purpose program. Okay. Your program, Living on Purpose, has impacted, if not thousands of people over the past how many years?
3 years.
3 years. Wow, that's 3 years, and it's impacted a lot of people. So how did your own journey lead you to this mission?
Okay.
Because before you even start, Mr. Michael, people who inspire, it's about telling the story, the journey, just to let a normal person struggling in his somewhere get to know that, hey, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Someone also started like this.
Yeah.
So it is always very important for them to connect and see it as an inspiration to believe, me too, I can do it. So how did your own story start?
I think it started with a few words I saw that really resonated with me, and it was simply restorer of paths to dwell in. Wow. Restorer of paths to dwell in. So when I saw those words, I was very fascinated. And when I saw the restorer of paths to dwell in, I immediately started thinking of paths as the way people should walk, the way people should live their lives, the things people should occupy themselves with. And then I looked at the word dwell, which for me represented something that they must commit to doing with their lives, with their strength, with their time, and everything they have at their disposal. And the words resonated because it reaffirmed the things that used to interest me. I always wanted to bring direction in anything I find myself doing. So even if we're having a casual conversation, I want to know, okay, where is this conversation going? What are we going to do as a result of this conversation? I enter a place and I feel there's no structure. I want to put structure because I feel if there's no structure, we're wasting time and we are dissipating energy and resources. So those words with my everyday interests, and I'm using everyday because people think purpose is something magical. It's your everyday interest finding expression in the right way.
That's right.
So those words with my everyday interest help me really appreciate that. I think purpose is something that I love to do, and I love to help people on the journey. So that was the bedrock for birthing living on purpose.
Wow. So that is the journey. That's the story. Sometimes we miss that and we see the top of the iceberg, but we don't know what's down there. So what Michael have just unraveled is the story, the real truth behind the Living on Purpose program. So it's very important for you to have that deep appreciation of the source, because if somebody claims to be the original producer of Living on Purpose, I think we can ask the question, please, what inspired it? So, Michael, of course, many struggle with finding their purpose before even living it out. How can someone find theirs?
Okay. I typically advise not to say finding. When you say you're finding something, it's like it's missing and you are looking
for it.
But you are discovering. It's there. It's just lying beneath the surface and you're on a journey to
like
find
that, discover.
There's a story. It's actually a funny story I had a long time ago about a conversation the creator of the universe was having with the animals he had created before creating man. And in the conversation, he was asking the animals, I want to put something very valuable inside man. But before he comes, where do you think I should place the thing so that he doesn't trivialize it, he doesn't take it for granted? And then all the animals started coming with the suggestions. And one animal said, I'll go and put it on the highest mountain peak. And the creator said, no, human beings are going to be very adventurous, so they will find it. And then one has also said, let's go to the deepest part of the sea and put it there. And then the creator said, no, they are still going to be very adventurous, they'll get there. And then the third person said, okay, let's take it all the way out of the earth and hide it somewhere on the moon. And the creator said, look, these people are going to start going to space
like
eventually. And then one person steps forward and says, you know what, just put it inside them. Put it inside them. And then the creator's like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. And so I'm sharing this fable because a lot of times when you talk about discovering your purpose, everybody's looking around them. It starts with it. So questions like, who am I? Why am I here? Why do I respond or react the way I do? You can't find the answers around you. You have to start within. Things around you can confirm and affirm what you are thinking, but a lot of times the primary way is the questions that start within and the questions that lead you towards the discovery. So that's where you start from.
I love that. I love that. And I love the part where he asks that to discover, you need to ask yourself, who am I? And where am I going? And what am I even destined to do? So I think it starts with the question. So just like the creator of the universe has put it inside. So the answers are deep within you. Okay, so Michael, of course, if these are the truths, what are some of the misconceptions that are all over the media about purpose that you would love to clear up?
I think people make the mistake of limiting purpose to a career or a job or a role. But purpose is really who you are. And you take who you are everywhere. You are who you are to your family, you are who you are to your workers, you are who you are to your colleagues, you are who you are to your friends, you are who you are wherever you go. And you can actually find purpose and expression everywhere you go. And so don't be overly fixated about saying, I have to become a doctor or I have to become a businessman. And if I don't become a doctor, a businessman, I'm doomed for life. That's not true. What purpose will do when you become conscious of it is it will help you identify areas where you have greater expression. And so that can inform the kind of work you do, the kind of activities you engage in. Because ultimately, you also want your gifts to find expression.
Yes.
And so purpose can guide you, but it doesn't mean that your purpose is to become that particular role or that particular professional. It's just telling you, with the things you have and the interest you have, maybe going in these directions will give you greater impact and fulfillment. That's one misconception.
Michael, how does purpose and gifts, as we say in the Christendom, gift or callings, how do they,
Okay. So I'll say purpose gives you direction. Your gifts give you expression.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's it.
Purpose gives you direction. Your gifts gives you expression. Just like the Bible said, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. It gives you, purpose gives you direction, and then your gift gives you expression, the opportunity to be able to show it and live it out. So I would say the gift is living it out, and then the purpose is you finding it, the direction, clear understanding of what you want to do. Okay, so Michael, let's do another rapid fire chat.
Okay.
So 3 words game. I'll throw out 3 random words, and you connect them to purpose. So failure, time, and passion. So let's start with failure.
A lot of people think they are failures because they see failure as a noun. We learned in school that noun is the name of a person, animal, place, or thing. But today I'm here to remind you to see failure as a verb. When you see it as a verb, it's an act. So the act that you didn't work out. It's just an act. It doesn't make you a failure. So pick up your life and try again. And the second word was?
The second word was time. I'm so excited about the first time.
Time. You don't have time. Don't waste the time that you have. Make the most of every opportunity. As they say, seize the day.
Wow.
The last one is?
Passion.
Well, does everybody have passion? I'll say yes and no. Yes, because you have to invest time to identify your interests, your convictions, and the things that you are very excited about. If you can find these things, you'll find your passion and you'll find expression for it. But I'll say no if you haven't invested the time to really understand who you are and connect the dots on the things that make you unique and the things that give you greater expression. If you don't invest time to know that, then you can be walking through life and saying, I don't have a passion. So those would be my answers.
I mean, if you just joined us now, this conversation is certainly the PWI, People Who Inspire Convo, and my guest today is an extraordinary life coach, Michael Adote from Ghana. And today he has helped us to understand in a very short game we just played on how to, fully connect time, passion, and failure. So let's start with failure. He said that failure is really a verb. So it's an action. For example, it's an opportunity for you to try something. You may fail, but you have to try again. So it's an experience. You should enjoy it. And then secondly, he said for time, you must always make the best use of time because time is almost like life. And then passion is the fuel, the driving force that helps you to live out or express your gift. All right, this is a perfect way of describing it. Michael, let's move to the 4th part of our convo.
Okay.
So the first part, we were able to, unravel the theme for today, which is mastering your mind, living on purpose, and leading with purpose. So, and then we moved to, the power of the mind. We were able to digest and understand how the mind works. And then we move to unlocking purpose and thriving. So now our next part will be something really important, which is leadership that transforms.
Okay.
leadership that transforms. So my question is very simple. What separates an average leader from a purpose-driven leader?
And for me, it's consistency.
Hmm.
It's consistency, and I describe consistency as three things. Number one, consistency is about character. And the character is the part of a person that shouldn't change. Your convictions, your values, the things you are known for. You have to stay true to those things. They are timeless. Seasons will come and go, but you have to stay committed to these things. And then there's competence. Competence deals with the ability of a person to be skilled technically in their area. So whatever you do, if you are a business person, if you are an educator, if you are into ministry, if you are into sports, you have to have the technical skill that is relevant for your field. However, that's not all there is. You also need what I call the ability to work with people. These days, there's a big conversation about generations and Gen Z and millennials and baby boomers and how we interplay in the work environment. The most important thing for anyone, regardless of which generation you fall into, if you want to be a great leader, you have to learn how to work with every generation. You have to learn how to work with those above you, those across you, and those below you. You have to learn to harmonize these relationships. And it's not easy, but it's worth striving for. It's worth working towards. And then the last C is creativity. If you want to be an exceptional leader, you've got to solve problems. You've got to solve problems. Wherever you are, there's a problem beckoning you to solve it. And so these are the things that set leaders apart. And if you're a leader and you are consistent in these three areas, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter where you start from, you will stand out.
It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter where you start from. You need these three C's to be able to lead with purpose, and that is consistency and my favorite, competence. Maybe we should say it in a capital form. Competence, and finally creativity, your ability to be able to tackle problems and get them solved. I love a quote said by Barack Obama where he said that, listen, whether young, old, wherever you find yourself, once you've been assigned to do something, nail it. Just nail it. And it requires competence and, most importantly, creativity to be able to do that. But you need to also be consistent. So we don't see you today and tomorrow we don't. We see you today and tomorrow we don't see you any longer. So it's very important. So Michael, your work with established companies or individuals, you have done amazing work with them. Some I know, and some I'm yet to know. But what's one quality you think emerging leaders in Africa or beyond must cultivate?
Again, I'll say diligence. Diligence. He who leads must lead with diligence. And diligence is really what will set you apart. Whatever you do, and again, I think culturally we like to think of a politician or some big government appointee whenever we think of leadership in our part of the world. But beyond all of that, everybody leads. Everybody has something that they have been put in charge of. If you are the lowest ranking member in an organization that you work in, there's a role that people look to you for. Maybe it's just about opening doors. The day you don't show up and open the doors on time, imagine what's going to happen to everybody. So if even that is what your role entails, you have to be diligent. I remember one of the roles I had when I was really taking leadership seriously is called a sergeant at arms.
A sergeant at,
and your job is to come to a meeting place early, arrange the chairs, clean the place, and make sure that the place is ready for the meeting to start. And I took that work so seriously. I would get there sometimes an hour ahead of time. And I was doing that because, one, I'm someone who sweats a lot. And so if I didn't come early enough, clean the place, and cool off and change, then I'll be a mess when the meeting starts. But that drive to make sure that a meeting is ready before the first person walks in, that's diligence. And you can take that to every space you go to. So I don't like to use complicated ideas and concepts. For me, it's a trait. If you build diligence as a trait, it will carry you to the elevated stages and hallways and places you envision you want to be in.
Wow. I love that. I love that. I love that so much. And also getting to know that you two had a very small beginning, where you work with. Were you interning there, or it
No, I
was?
was volunteering.
Wow,
Yeah, I was
wow.
volunteering.
So, what do you say about volunteering for some of our young people who wants to become a billionaire overnight? What are some of the?
I think volunteering is one of the greatest avenues to learn leadership
Mm,
because it teaches you influence. You don't have formal authority to lord anything over anyone. All you have is your example. So when you volunteer and you volunteer by example
mm,
and you demonstrate the things that are expected of you through your example, you become influential because then you can easily get people to do things that will contribute to the overall objective that you have. So that was how volunteering helped me. And so if you want to be an influential leader, learn to lead people outside your formal authority.
outside of
So whether it's in a volunteering setting or not, lead people as though you didn't have formal authority.
Mm,
And it's what John Maxwell calls the permission, where
the
you
five
start
P's.
as a positional leader.
Yeah.
Eventually, if you're good, people give you permission to lead them.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You get it? They willingly offer themselves for you to lead them.
And that's the five P's of
Yeah,
leadership.
the 5 levels of
Five
leadership.
levels of leadership. Yeah, wonderful. I think one day we should actually sit and exhaust the topic of leadership, which is a lot to exhaust. Michael, I really admire your zeal, your passion for leadership, and I'm glad that we are spending a few of our time, diving deep into it. But let's get to self leadership, right? Because leadership isn't just about guiding others or leading others. I also believe it's also about guiding yourself, knowing yourself before you inspire other people to go the way that you're already going. So, what's a daily habit to that you can recommend for maybe a young person who is watching this right now that they can cultivate? You have actually given us some 3 C's. You've talked about diligence. Are there some other habits that you would love to bring to bear now?
Okay. I think anybody who wants to be a great leader should do 2 things. One, ask yourself every day, who can I serve? Who can I serve? It's a question I ask myself a lot. And sometimes when I ask the question, somebody's name comes to mind. And I reach out and just ask, how are you doing? What's going on with you? And in having conversations, there's something I may know, there's someone I may connect them to, or there's some idea that I may share, and then it just makes a difference. So look for people you can serve. Look for people you can impart something to. Okay. And the second thing, reflect on your day.
Reflect on your day.
How did my day go? Where did I excel? Where did I struggle? What worked? What didn't work? Just learn to make the most of every day by looking back on it, learning valuable lessons, and committing to do better the next day.
Wonderful.
These 2 things alone will start creating a hunger and an appetite to do better in everything else that you do.
Michael, is there a book that you would recommend for anyone who wants to, work on their habits and choices?
I typically don't do that because what may work for me may not work for an individual. But my challenge, or what I'll throw back to our audience, is start with yourself. Get to know yourself, which is why I said reflect. As you reflect, you'll make discoveries about yourself. When you make a discovery, it's easier for you to determine, I think I need to build skill or strength in this area, so I'm going to focus on this. And that's something that in 2014, I made a realization that all the people I admired were very good communicators. And I had written in my journal that, how can I become a good communicator? And I didn't have an answer. But because I knew I needed to build competency in communication, I was on a search. Eventually, I found something that led me to discover the ability to communicate and harness it and be able to do what I'm doing now. Because 10, 11 years ago, you wouldn't want to have me doing anything close to what I'm doing. But it started with knowing myself, making a discovery, and being able to tell that I need to go in this direction.
Michael, you see, what you just said have just prompted me to ask you another question. So this has to do with, you remember you mentioned just a couple of seconds ago that some of the people you followed were good communicators, and that in return inspired you to say, okay, or challenged you to improve. What do you say about the importance of finding or discovering a mentor?
There's value in mentoring. There's great value in it. I've benefited directly and indirectly from mentoring. But we live in a world where mentoring has also metamorphed in different ways. Because typically in those times, people need a physical mentor to speak into their lives, to hold their hand, to be there for them in the pivotal moments of their lives. You will not always have that. Or you may not even have access to the person, but you can follow them because people share their experiences, they share their thoughts in different ways. It could be through books, it could be through their YouTube channels, it could be through their social media handles, and you pick many things from them. If you are blessed to have an opportunity to meet them and they are willing to mentor you, that's great. But until then, use all the appropriate channels available to get the information you need to build your life.
Michael just said that it's not always necessary for you to, strive to meet them. If you have an opportunity of meeting a great person you love and admire, fine, that's great. But you can always find their resources, some of their inspirational words, or something to guide you, to inspire you, either on YouTube, or follow their podcast, or follow them very closely virtually on Facebook, social media, wherever. And sometimes you might even be closer to them from those resources that they've provided by written books or audio visuals. And you'll be closer to them than people who are very close to them, because you have access to the top materials that they have thoughtfully put together and released to the world. So it's very important to find a mentor. And if you find one very close to you, God bless you. So it's very important. So Michael, let's look at this one. Maybe for a top business person or an entrepreneur or someone who is trying to navigate their way through life, how do you handle moments of doubts? Because uncertainty will always set in one way or the other. As a leader and as an individual, how do you actually handle it?
I can't answer this question outside of my faith.
Wow.
There's no way I can answer that. And so I will share it purely from a faith-based perspective. And this is what I'll say. I learned something from Psalm 18:30, and I coined it, something that I tell myself a lot: perfect way, proven word, trusted shield. So it's a verse that's talking about God's ways are perfect. So if I'm going through a challenging season, I'm having a very torrid time, who knows the best way possible to get out of it? For me, it's God. So I'm going to turn to Him for direction. You get it? And then, whose word is proven? Who can you bank on? Because when you're going through tough times, people usually desert you in those times.
Right.
People usually don't even know what to say
And
to you
that's
to
true.
make you feel good, or people don't even know how to inspire and challenge you in those times. But I believe God's word is proven to do that, because I have found the greatest inspiration and challenge from God's word, and it's coming timely and tailor-made for the season that I'm in. And it even calls you to something greater when you think you are done. You get it? So that's it. And then the last of all is a trusted shield. That, I mean, whatever you're going through, you're not going to be consumed. It's not going to be the end of you. I've had experiences where it feels like I'm in a tight corner and there's no way out. Somehow, right before my eyes, there's a big way. And then I can suddenly do more things, and I can suddenly take on more challenges. So that's my candid answer. And it's purely faith based. And so if you know something that you consider to be proven, if you know something that you consider to be able to give you the answers you need, and you know something that is able to keep you in difficult times, maybe you can explore that. But for me, I don't think there's anything outside of God that can help you in the challenges that come with life. So He doesn't disappoint.
Indeed, candid. I love the word candid. Michael said that you should find the perfect ways, proving words, and trusted shield. This is something that we should actually spend another 1 hour unraveling
Talking about.
or thinking about, because he is also speaking from a faith perspective as a child of God or as a Christian, because he was able to connect the trusted words to be the words of God, which is the Bible. And through that, you know that God's ways are higher than man's. And that is the perfect ways. And then the trusted shield, of course, if you're already a Christian watching this, you know where that one is. So that's your assignment for today. When you have a moment, just put it on the chat or in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on these very important tips from Michael on how he handles doubt and uncertainties, because it will always set in one way or the other, especially if you're trying to start something new, or you're already working on something and all of a sudden you're confused, you're uncertain, you're perplexed, you have no idea what to do next. Just find a trusted way, find a trusted word, and your trusted shield, or proving words, actually. Michael, another quick challenge.
Okay.
You have a way of handling challenges so well, so that's why I brought more.
Okay.
So, can you describe the mindset of a great leader using only emojis? Just facial expressions.
Maybe I'll do something like this. It
Mm.
represents thinking,
Yeah.
and then I would probably say maybe smile,
Okay.
which represents calmness.
Yes.
And then I would maybe have a straight look to say, let's get serious.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I think Michael, maybe let me. So you've used the emojis. Let me describe the emojis. So the thinking shows a leader who brings up the idea, strategy, right? And then the calmness is when you are loaded, because when you're loaded, if you are not calm, you explode. So you're calm, you're smiling, you're bringing everybody on board, and then let's get serious. Let's get it done. A bishop that I follow so very closely, Bishop David Oyedepo, was asked in a World TV, and he was asked, "What do you do every day?" He said, "I think and I read." I think and I read. And somebody said he actually has a room in his house where he calls thinking room. How important is thinking?
Thinking is important.
It's important. It's important.
It's a skill we have to cultivate.
It's a skill. Wonderful. So let's now look at the practical tools and strategies in the next few minutes. All right, this will be almost our last part of our conversation. So you talk about wiring to thrive, or wiring yourself to thrive. Can you share a practical strategy for a maybe someone listening to us or our audience, a practical strategy that can be, considered whilst we are trying to wire to thrive?
I think you have to take ownership of what you watch and what you hear. Because that's what's wiring you. Everybody's wired to act in a certain way. And the wiring, part of it can be genetic, but actually the bulk of it is what you are listening to and what you are watching. Because that's what is forming the backdrop of your thinking and influencing your choices and your actions. So if you want to wire right, be sure that the bulk of your time is devoted to listening and hearing things that are adding value to you. Look at what podcasts have become these days. I can't see why somebody would choose, and this is no offense to a radio station, but a lot of the things we are listening to on the radio at the time you're going to work, ask yourself if it's really, 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 really important for somebody who has challenges, who has difficulties, to then carry the burdens of the nation and then be arguing about the politician said this and this person.
It's interesting.
Just think about it.
Right.
And then when you are done and you are charged and you are pumped up, you have your life waiting for you when you get out of the vehicle. And then you realize a lot of times your bandwidth, what you were going to use to think and suffer, you've lost it all. You get it? So if you want to really wire yourself, I'm not saying don't listen to the radio, and I'm not saying radio stations don't offer anything. They are there to inform us, but you have to be selective in how you engage with it, so that it doesn't become your mind doesn't become a dumping ground. And you realize that if you pay attention to what you're seeing and what you're listening to, you'll naturally start thriving, because then you replicate the things that you are exposed to.
Wonderful, wonderful. Michael said, be intentional about the things that comes in or goes in, because out of it,
you have the answer.
Wonderful. So, I think just not to add, but you brought about the radio thing. So one day I was listening to Pastor Tabo, who is my pastor, share a story about when he was on his way. He said he jogs a lot. So he was jogging and he sees people having a radio by their ears and wondering what they are listening to at 5 a.m. And supposing the person who is speaking knows what he's talking about and how helpful some of the discussions, which mostly are political, are to somebody who has just woken up at 5 a.m. with a big loud radio tuned into their ears, with their filter gates widely open, feeding them. And imagine that person showing up at work at 7 or 8 a.m. and they have presented a problem for him to solve. He's angry already. So how can he contribute? So it's an advice. So Michael has just unleashed this and said, for you to be properly wired to thrive. And thriving is being able to make a difference, to be able to produce good results. It's simply for you to be intentional about what you are listening and what you're watching, and including what you're reading, right? What you're reading as well.
What you're watching, what you're reading. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So what is that one small consistent action that can lead to a massive transformation?
These questions are very difficult to answer because context always matters. So I will answer it in the sense that, where do you want to be an authority? If you know where you want to be an authority, spend at least maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day reading around that area.
Right.
Every day, without fail, I read about the mind, I read about purpose, I read about leadership, because that's what my life is given to. So my time goes there because I want to understand, I want to learn, I want to grow so that I can serve people. So that would be my advice to you. Figure out where you want to be an authority and build a routine that is constantly feeding you and equipping you to stand out in that area.
Michael, but for someone who is watching this right now, who wants to apply all this, but somehow feels overwhelmed, where should they start?
I think what you want to do with your life. Ask yourself that question. Like, what do I want to do? Don't even think about the next 5 years, the next 20. Like, where you sit right now, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to school? Do you want to maybe move jobs? Do you want to start a business? Just have one thing you want to start with and focus on that. People want to play God. And when I say play God, it's like we want to figure out everything before we get going. But when you're driving at night, how far can your light see? Your light, even if you put it on highlight and you have a fog light and you have an LED light, you can't see all the way to where you're going. So you see a portion at a time. But as you move closer, the car light keeps covering more ground and eventually you get to where you're getting to. So I will say that figure out what you want to do immediately. Take the step. When you take the first step, you will know the next thing to do. And don't complicate it. Don't feel paralyzed by fear. Let the fear actually inspire you to take action. But start with an immediate step you can take.
Again, this has been the People Who Inspire conversation, and my guest today is a life coach, the founder and president of POIMEN, an organization that has been set up. I will define the organization in 3 words: to help you discover your purpose and live on purpose, as well as you have to be properly wired to thrive. Then that comes from the mind. And then finally, leadership. If you want to lead and make a difference in your community and around the world, I think POIMEN is the place and is the program you want to take up, and they will help you, with Michael and the team to live on purpose and make a unique difference. So today our conversation has been centered around these 3 words: the mind, purpose, and leadership. And we are now summing everything up, and we just want to send a special appreciation to Michael for making time to be with us. So Michael, what's the future for POIMEN? What's the future like?
I mean, it's doing what we do. It's helping people master their mind, live on purpose, and lead diligently. And we are going to do more of that. And we are also thinking about making this relevant for present and future generations.
That's right.
We don't just want to make an impact now. We want to do something that will give the generations coming a better shot at life. Because we've taken so much for granted. I've had to learn so many things the hard way. And it's sad to see people in their adult life trying to solve problems that they should have solved long ago. And I saw a statement that really summed it up for me. It is better to raise stronger children than working with a weak adult. It's better to raise stronger children than fixing weak adults. And the fixing a weak adult is someone who's gone through life, hasn't really built firm foundations and firm thought patterns and firm concepts to really drive the things they want to do in life, and they are now trying to figure it out. It's so challenging. But if you raise a strong child, the Bible says, train up a child the way he should go, and when he grows, he will not depart from it. So that is a commitment to the next generation, and we mustn't take it lightly.
Wow. POIMEN, you are in for great things. I'm privileged to be a volunteer for POIMEN in some of the future programs that will be happening. I would love to say I'm a proud ambassador for POIMEN. So Michael have personally, in one way or the other, provided guidance and support to me personally, and that is why for People Who Inspire, we see him to be a great source of inspiration. And so we truly would really recommend that you share this to somebody else to also benefit from the nuggets of wisdom and the wealth of wisdom that he has poured or shared with us today. So, Michael, how can people connect with you and where can they find you?
Look for POIMEN, look for Michael Adote on any social media platform and you'll find us. And then I have a Wire to Thrive podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify. Once you type Wire to Thrive, you'll find us. And so I'm sure Emmanuel can also share the handles with the listeners. But once you search Michael Adote, you search Wire to Thrive, or you search POIMEN, you'll come across our content.
Where you find POIMEN, you find Michael Adote. Where you find Michael Adote, you find POIMEN.
Yeah.
And please check the link on display right now to be able to connect to see all the amazing stuff POIMEN is doing. So, Michael, if you could leave our audience with one inspirational word or truth about mastering the mind, purpose, and leadership, what would it be?
Where you start in life doesn't matter. What matters is the choices and the actions that you take. So, if you determine today, regardless of where you are, you could be at the peak of the mountain, you could be at the foot of the mountain. If you make the right choices and take the right actions, you'll end up somewhere you'll be proud of. So, enough of the life hasn't been fair to me, life hasn't treated me well, my parents didn't do much for me, my boss isn't helping me. What choice can you make today? And what action can you take today? That is totally in your hands.
In Ghana, we say afa. And in Nigeria, we say ogosigo.
Yes,
And then in English, it said, that is it. We are done. But it feels like we are about to experience a part 2 of this convo, because when you have Michael around, you just want to have him all the time. So, Michael, what do you say about people who inspire?
I think it's a good avenue to provide people with a blend of individuals whose stories may speak to them in different ways. You may find somebody whose story is a total resonation with yours, and you want to just build your life and step out and do what they did. That's great. You may be somebody who also finds a bit of yourself in everybody. You can pick all the ideas you have, blend it together, and create your own journey. So that for me is relevant, and it's important because people are sharing their stories, their experiences. They are letting you know they are human just as you. They are letting you know their struggles. I haven't had an easy ride in no stretch. In fact, life is still a struggle, but there's a certain doggedness and a determination that comes with just constantly pushing the limits and breaking the mold and charting a new path. So people who inspire, I believe, is going to contribute positively in that regard.
And we are super excited to have Michael Adote as a member, a mentor in the People Who Inspire Network. And this is the PWI network. That is, in case you want to join, there is a QR code you could scan right now to be able to join, to be a member, and find yourself a good mentor that could guide you. Sometimes it could just be, like I said, following some of their programs, the materials that they have made available for you online, assessing them and making the best use of it. But don't forget to be able to share your experience about using those resources and acknowledge the source. So, Michael, this is the final question. We always challenge our guests to share their final inspirational message. I know what you shared previously was also inspirational, but this one is your last. So your final in 30 seconds. So we are going to time you. Once the 30 seconds reach, I will show you the clock that is 30 seconds. So it's our last challenge for you. So this is one of those, if we are to say it's an elevator pitch, but we are seated. So it's a seated pitch.
Okay.
So on living with purpose. So give us your best 30 minutes, 30 seconds motivational or inspirational speech on living with purpose. 30 seconds.
Okay, living with purpose is like a heat-seeking missile. When you shoot a heat-seeking missile and it locks on its target, the target becomes what it is obsessed with. If the target moves left, it will move left. If it moves right, it will move right. That's how you must pursue your purpose. Don't give up on it.
That is exactly 29 seconds. So, Michael, this has been an incredible conversation. So, thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom with us. To everyone watching this, we are really grateful you made time to plug in on the PWI Convo, which is streaming or has streamed on YouTube, featuring Michael Adote and other great leaders who are leading positive change in the various communities. That is what the People Who Inspire platform has been created for, and we are set to inspire hope, inspire direction, and ultimately inspire impact. That is our story, and that is why you are with us. Thank you so much for joining, and don't forget to share this with somebody to also be inspired and lead a positive change. Michael, thank you so much. It's been a great time.
Thank you to People Who Inspire and Emmanuel.
Thank you.
Yes.